LCBN television broadcasts 24/7 on UK Freeview Channel 271, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, Google TV, See Love World, LCBNTV.com, LifeComTV.com.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Lydia. My name is Lydia Khalil. Today I'm going to be talking with a young man called Seun Dosunmu. And what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about finding you. I met him recently at a conference, and the theme for the conference was self-awareness. And after I had done my little contribution to the program, we sort of had quite a long, interesting conversation sitting at the back of the hall. So I thought we had such a good conversation. I thought I would bring him on, and not only because of that, but also he's a mental health advocate. He's doing a lot of work in the mental health space. So please join me to welcome Seun. Good evening. I think he may be having a bit of a good evening. Welcome. Can you hear me?
I lost you there.
Yes, the joys of the internet. Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining at such short notice and agreeing to come on. I don't know if you heard me when I was giving the introduction, saying we met at the conference and had such a good conversation behind. I thought I had to bring you.
I missed that part. I'll probably watch again.
Yes. So, do you want to? I sort of talked a bit about you and your mental health work and your advocacy. So, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself first?
Sure. My name is Seun Dosunmu, and I think I'm one very spontaneous young man who is willing to not remain static, always trying out and testing new ideas. And I think so far that has gotten me to where I am. That has opened my eyes to seeing, so much opportunities and having clarity around life. So yeah, I'm adventurous. I'm a mental health advocate, a passionate social change leader.
Okay, so how did you get into mental health advocacy? What what took you down
Uh,
that path?
okay, so I always like to share this part of my journey. I Many people even think that I've suffered, mental illness at some point, but I haven't. I've been lucky not to. I've suffered mental illness, but in this journey of life, we just walk the pathway. We don't know what next is going to happen. Just like I met you that day at that event, you wouldn't believe that I didn't have intentions of attending that event. I just came because I saw it on the post. So for me, I've always wanted to volunteer with non-profit organizations, and in one of the opportunities that opened up, because I was willing to volunteer, there was this organization I was volunteering with at the time. I had little experience around it, but because the program coordinator could see that I had this passion for, driving conversations. So on this day, they were supposed to, counsel or more like speak to some injection drug users. So that was like my first, and he asked me to come and speak to them. Interestingly, I honored the invite as usual, and I was there to speak to about 30, 40 injection drug users. In my head, I didn't believe that, people like that existed in Nigeria. I would have thought it was a thing of, the Western culture. How can you, pass drugs through your veins via injection? So I spoke to them just as, I was expected to. Oh, don't do drugs for the sake of your health. Quit drugs. It's not good for you. And all I could, really churn out were just encouraging words. But after that moment, I did think about it that these guys really need more than just encourage words of encouragement, because they are now addicts, drug addicts, and it seems like they're struggling with getting out of that life that they have chosen. And I thought about it differently again, that it's possible that these guys must have lost probably a relative, or lost a job, or lacked emotional support from home, or even suffered from a broken marriage. And that that thought pattern started to change me as a person. And because I was also looking out for myself, I began to see that this is the path I need to go in, because it seemed like I wanted to help, but I couldn't at that time. So that's like one of the experiences that transformed me to becoming a mental health advocate. Along the way, I've met other people. I met another older person who opened up to me about our experience with depression in many angles. One, she lost a close relative to a plane crash, and she still feels guilty because she placed that call to her sister saying, come home, come to Lagos. And boom, on our way to Lagos, she was a victim, or she was part of the air crash, and she lost her sister to that. Two, she also talked about, she got married newly, I think within a year. She couldn't take it because of hormonal imbalance issues. And getting married in Nigeria and not getting pregnant is a big issue in many families, because you hear prayers like, "Oh, by in 9 months, we'll come and celebrate with you. In 9 months, we'll carry a baby." And then for her, 9 months after, she couldn't take in because she had hormonal imbalance, and that really dealt with her emotionally and mentally. Then the third angle to her story was that she was obese at some point, and she suffered, stigma from, oh, you're big, you don't stock up your size. She will go to stores and they will tell her things like, we don't stock up your size. The cab man will say, you're too big, I can't carry you. And they, everyone around us seems to be making fun of our size. And, so again, that just confirmed to me that, Mr. Seun Dosunmu, this is your space. This is where you need to, work in at least for a very long time. So that that's I have like usually I have like I share three experiences that led me into, and that's the second one. The third is that I know of like a big brother in the community who has been treating his brother for mental illness for at least 15, I think 15 years. So that was I had the first hand experience knowing how overwhelming, financially tasking, and emotionally draining it could be to have a relative with mental illness. And to me, all of that just pointed at, oh, this conversation, no one is talking about it at that time. Could it be that mental health experts are just doing their job and they aren't raising awareness about mental illness, or relatives of persons with mental illness are not talking about it? So I saw that gap, and I was convinced that I needed to play an important role in driving mental health conversations.
Okay. So quite a wide spectrum of experience. So one actually working with people suffering from drug addiction, one a friend who had depression, and I think it escalated because her sister had died so tragically. And then finally somebody who you're friendly with living and trying to help somebody who is unwell. So, I, would you say that somehow life or destiny drew you into mental health? So it wasn't something wasn't in your journey, your pathway, but somehow you navigated, or
So
life navigated you towards that.
this is why when we were talking about picking a topic, I wouldn't have envisaged that it come in 5, 10 years after secondary school, or 15 years, or 20 years after I'll be the one driving, because I never had any guidance. I never had anyone around me who was a psychologist. I never had anyone who was a psychiatrist or a counselor. But again, because the journey of life, we just have to go through it in our own different ways. I haven't been raised by a single mother. I realized that I have, some kind of soft spot for wanting to help, other people, especially when it comes to emotional issues. I realized that many people come to me, they find me like the go-to guy person to speak about, their personal issues, because they know I would listen and listen with empathy. So for me, it's been a journey, and I think sometimes we don't have to have clarity as to how the journey would eventually turn out. But what is most important is that in the course of the journey, in meeting people, in driving, conversations, we need to begin to be sensitive to what the message, or what the message here, or the spirit is actually telling us. Now, this is not me going spiritual, but the signs will always be there. If I were to be selling a product, I don't know if I would, function at my best compared to how I'm driving mental health conversations. Um, a lot of people even ask me, why do you carry this mental health matter on your head? Why are you carrying it on your head? Like, is it your matter? But the truth is, I have just realized that for me to fulfill purpose on earth, I need to play an important role in helping other people. And I think mental health advocacy is one of
Is your
the
thing.
many ways.
So what is disability inclusion evangelist?
So again, um, whilst we are embarking on this journey, we would all, like I said, I have a passion for wanting to help. In fact, I think help is like the key word for me. Just put me in a space where there's need for help. I function. I function without having without any pressure. I just realized that this is my space. I need to begin to do something. So first, it started with mental health advocacy, and I think it was 2017 when I put together a conference tagged Work and Emotional Balance Conference, and the aim was just to spotlight mental health and have conversations around issues around mental health and types of mental illnesses. So at the end of the event, one person came in, attended, who is a person with disability. In fact, he would move around with his wheelchair. So at the end of the event, he sends me a message saying, "Well done. I like your drive, but can you help me share a video?" And I was like, "Okay, what's the video about?" Then he shared a video of another person on wheelchair who
Mhm.
visited a renowned, tourist destination. But unfortunately, he couldn't access the restroom because, he was on wheelchair and the restroom wasn't designed for persons with wheelchair. So he was compelled to pee in a bottle. And for me, it was disgusting to see, but more importantly, I felt it was necessary to be a part of the advocacy for
Mhm.
the inclusion of persons with disabilities, because first, we're all human before every other thing. So for someone on wheelchair who probably didn't sign a contract that I'm coming to this world to be a person with disability, or I'm coming to this world to be a deaf person, something must have happened. So I felt, okay, since this person is engaging me in this conversation, it will be necessary for me to help. And like I said, help has been like the keyword. So I shared that post on my Instagram page. And afterwards, I decided to, add it to my mental health because I realized It's all in line with what I wanted to do. And that's where, the journey of mental health and disability inclusion and evangelism popped in.
Okay. All right. So thank you. But let's move to what we sort of talked about. I was sharing before you joined me that we met at a conference talking about self-awareness, and then we started a separate conversation after I had, done my bit, contributed. So, and today you chose the topic of finding you. So, was that sort of triggered from the conversation, or was that something that you had on your mind?
Okay, so I've always, wanted to be a part of conversations that would open the eyes of people and then give them more understanding as to going through life. I wouldn't say that I am at the peak of my career or I am so successful that I don't have any other thing to learn. Because when you talk about finding yourself, many people begin to see that it has to do with money, it has to do with it's not about finance, it's about purpose on earth. Many of us we have roles to play on this earth. And the most frustrating part is that you live life without clarity, you live life without even knowing what you're going to do next. So and this is condition or situation many young persons are, even adults, even
Mm-hmm.
older persons that have lived and you hear things like, "Ah, I wish I did this, I wish I did that." And that's because, from working or focusing on survival, we often, miss the chance to find purpose. I
Mm-hmm.
would say I'm privileged, like I'm really lucky to have, found myself or found, specific areas that I would go all the way, to be a part of. If you bring sports to me, I might say, I don't have that ability. But if it's about advocacy, I think that's where my strength lies. And I would say again that I'm lucky I
have
consider myself lucky,
discovered that part.
yes, to have discovered this.
So I think when most of the speakers were done, you asked me a question like, okay, we've heard all of this. Is it really possible um, to, how do we implement what we had heard? And for it to make sense that somebody discovers who they are. I think one of the things I had said is that most of us know ourselves from what other people say about us. So our parents gave us a narrative. We went to school, we're giving another narrative. We got to maybe secondary school or college. Then all of a sudden we're told to pick whether we wanted to go into the science world or the art world. And sometimes we couldn't. Some people had the capacity to do both. And or they were under pressure from parents to study particular courses. So you could be a brilliant science student, but your family is law or in that legal practice, and then you somehow get pushed there. And then people grow up, and that narrative that was given to them is from somebody else, not theirs. And I remember you saying, well, you all have said all these big things. How do we articulate it, and how do we make it practical for us to discover? So I guess what I'm asking is how can anybody listening, be it a parent, be a young person, be an adult, how can you what is the question the person is asking? Because you are in some way speaking for people who on this journey of discovering self. Did you hear my question?
I missed that question.
Okay.
The
My
network is
question,
really...
the question would be, what is somebody who wants to discover, because they're hearing all these big words about finding self, being self-aware. What is that person thinking? Because I'm here saying, well, just listen to yourself, write 3 things, good, bad, and ugly, all that kind of rhetoric. So what questions are going on for you when you're hearing somebody like me speak about this concept of self-awareness?
So for me, I like to attend events and listen to speakers, and that's not because I think I know it all, but because I want to listen to somebody say it differently. Oftentimes, people go about attending events and they hear almost the same thing. So for me, for a long time, I've never had a mentor. It's very strange because from the books we read, you hear things like find a mentor, find a mentor. But I've always believed that when you test your ideas, when you get your own feedbacks, when you improve on some of the things you have tested and get to a point where you're confident about many things, then we can begin to say, I need a mentor. And I think that's where I am at the moment. I've tested a lot of ideas. In fact, I'm afraid that someone perceives me as the know-it-all guy. No, I'm not. I've just been lucky to take risks. I've been lucky to, work on my ideas as they drop in my head. In fact, I've lost a lot of money testing ideas. And I think, these experiences helped me really grow. They helped me grow to the point I am now. So someone who is hearing, listen to yourself, it might sound really basic, but it's not so easy.
It's not
So
that easy.
depending on where they are coming from, if you have a supportive family, it's a lot easier to, have conversations. But if you don't have any of that, no good job, at least fair enough job, you don't have a supportive family, you don't have good education, you are timid, you fear, the responses people would give you, especially when you fail at something, then we know that that will be difficult for such a person to try out things and even discover who they are. So
Okay.
I I encourage that, anyone who just take time, begin to assess, your environment, and if you are a parent as well, take time out to begin to see where your strength lies. Because nobody comes into this world with a totally different ideology. We are all products of our environment. The things we have heard, the things we have seen, especially from people we respect, people who idolize, people we see as are my father, my mother, my aunt. So I would also advise parents to look within. Whilst you are living life, take time out to see where your strengths are and look out for better ways to improve on it. If you have children or kids who are growing, you also can help them, begin to understand where their strength lies. And I tell you that when we begin to have conversations around where your strength lies and what you can do around your strength, we make life, easier for anyone who is about to launch. But it's not always easy when your relatives don't even encourage you when you are good at something. For me, I didn't have so much, praise, so much accolades in school. In fact, I dreaded school and I dreaded structure. I'm not saying this, so I dreaded structure, but I still had to go through it. In fact, when I put in for admission into the university, I chose business administration because it was the trending course at that time. I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about it, but it was a trending course, and I picked it. But luckily for me, I think I'll say luckily for me, I didn't get into business admin. So I was offered, a choice of picking a second course. Again, I would say I was lucky because I had my aunt's friend, told me then that just buy a change of course form and I'll get you into adult education. That was strange, adult education. I knew nothing about it again. But I was like, okay, let me go back, check for other courses. I wanted to do guardians and counseling. She just kept telling me, Uncle, you are one phone call away to getting admission into adult education. So eventually, I opted for that course. And, I've taken time the course exposed me to other things because I began to see things in a different dimension. When my friends were talking about other professions, I was coming from a totally different standpoint. And that, made me to see myself that, you can actually pursue a career in this path. So I think parents can begin to work with their children to identify their strengths because it's very important. If you are operating in a space where your strengths don't lie, where your strengths are not, then you are going to struggle. You are going to struggle. So I think parents can begin to work with their kids on, especially in the areas of their strength, and that would go a long way.
Okay, so it's I guess it's a twofold instruction for people to think about themselves and see where their strengths lie. Parents can help by encouraging or affirming where their strengths are. But I think for you, you had the boldness to try different things. Um, but not everybody is as bold as that. A lot of us, if we're not confident anyway, I'm really not sure who I am. I'm not even sure what I'm good at. Especially people who are maybe they're just average, they're coasting. Um, so how, I guess, for you, you talk about just like coming out of this background of survival. We have to do this, you know. But I guess there is a bit of mental aptitude, something that gives you that edge to push through and push forward. So for somebody who doesn't have it, what would be your sort of advice to them?
So I don't think I had a lot of things as well, but I was just not comfortable, living a mediocre life. In fact, as I speak to you, I'm still not comfortable with, playing small. It might cost me, but I think it has worked for me as well. So I remember in 2014, I realized that I have a passion for speaking. I wanted to speak at events. I wanted to facilitate trainings. I wanted to earn awards for speaking. I wanted to get paid for speaking. So I began to see that I could play the role of a master of ceremony. I thought that I could facilitate trainings and get paid. I thought that I could, consult. And so many of these ideas popped in my head. But I knew nobody was going to offer me their platform since I had not done anything. No one, in as much as they think you can speak, but no one has seen you speak. No one has listened to you. So what one of the things I did then was I put together a training. I didn't have a marketing plan. In fact, that was 2014. I didn't have a marketing plan. I just thought when I put together this training, my friends, my relatives, or anybody following me would,
Would just
purchase,
buy.
you just buy. And you would be shocked that I paid for 2 days at a training to get a training space. 2 days, like 2 days. I didn't know what I was thinking. And that tells you where, I didn't want to play small. I just thought I could do this 2 days. No one has done it before. Let me try it. And then boom, I tried it. I realized nobody was saying anything. I was posting, nobody was saying anything. I went to university. I think I went to Unilag. I started talking, marketing it to, undergraduates. Myself, this is, the school I finished from, but I didn't allow that. I just realized I needed to make this thing work. So I kept, encouraging people. This is why you need to buy into this. You will learn this. You will learn this. You will learn this. I'm sure in their heads they were like, "Bros, what are you saying?" But eventually, I didn't get a lot of people to pay for the training, but I got people to attend. Some of them attended free, but that was a, learning point for me.
So did you
I
have to cover the cost?
Yes,
So you
yes,
made a loss effectively.
yes. I made a loss, and that was huge. Again, but I learned my lessons, and I, decided not to play small. I learned from that experience. Like I really learned that you needed to have a better plan towards whatever you're doing. Again, you would have thought that this guy will, come out with a banger. 2016, I thought of an idea again in my head, hang out with the professionals. At that time, I think I worked with a travel agency, and I was already in the travel world. So I thought about combining, tourism with education. Yes, it was a novel idea. In fact, this idea got me to the semi-final stage of Leap Africa's Social Innovator Program. That same year that I launched. But again, guess what? I lost a lot of money. I tested these ideas.
You tested the ideas.
Yeah, I tested these ideas, and that was 2016. I was young, but I felt I couldn't just have a job somewhere and not do anything extra. 2017, I tried something else. So for me, I think it was about testing my ideas. That really helped me grow fast and helped me gain, exposure. And people began to see me in a different light as an innovator. They began to see me as someone who had content. And after a while, I began, getting speaking engagements. I started getting invites to, I think, University of Lagos. I spoke to some undergraduates, and I had my lecturers as guests. So that began to fuel my confidence.
Mhm.
Like, okay, you are making headway. At a time, I had someone, tell me he would teach me public speaking on BlackBerry Messenger, and that I was supposed to pay 100,000 for for 3 weeks or thereabout. Again, he sent another opportunity, 150,000. I didn't have these funds,
Mhm.
but I was willing to learn. So on my own, I decided to join Toastmasters Club, and I, paid the membership due. And I was, preparing for speeches. I began to get better at delivering speeches, how to craft speeches. And again, because people started seeing me as someone who was making headway, at the time I became the president of my club. And that again, people started seeing me in a different light. So all of these things helped me become, become a better person. And it was easier to drive conversations, especially when you meet, experienced people. They would see you as someone who is making effort,
Mhm.
who is trying to change spin the conversation, who is trying to make impact. And I think that's how, everyone should make efforts. But I see that many people again, because one, if you lose a lot of money, you should have a job or something to fall back on. For me, I had a job at that time. So I would
Mhm.
say my savings, I was losing my savings.
Okay,
But
because that was going to be my next question. Like, sometimes people would try a lot of things, but really, they're just trying it on air. So, but you were working,
yeah,
you had a job, and you were experimenting on different kind of things.
yeah,
Okay, all right. So, I think before we came on, we were talking about going to university, and actually, even at that point, you weren't sure what you were going to study. Was that
yeah.
because there wasn't enough guidance, or because you just hadn't figured out you?
So I didn't have enough guidance. I didn't have anyone who was around me who had very serious interest in education. In fact, it was more about go out there and just lead your life.
Mm-hmm,
Just find a way, just find a way. Oh, after secondary school, what's next? Buy jam form, go and write your exam. Just
mm-hmm,
score whatever, just keep pushing.
mm-hmm,
And that was it. I would think if I had, people around me educate me on many things, maybe I probably wouldn't take this long to get to
mm-hmm,
where I am. But again, I feel that in finding you, in really getting to discover who you are,
mm-hmm,
sometimes the road, the walk path might not be straight. And I think that's it has been for me. My journey has not been, a straight journey. I've
mm-hmm,
tried a lot of things. At the point, it was all me driving disability inclusion. At the time, it was mental health. And then 2019, I just told myself, okay, come, bro, sit down. What do you really want to be known for? What is important to you? And I began asking myself, and I found clarity in that path.
mm-hmm,
So I picked mental health because it cuts across every human being. So for some people, I think proper, guardians might lead them the right path, but for some people, they might have to navigate, their way themselves.
mm-hmm,
And I think that also comes with a unique learning experience.
mm-hmm,
Because if
mm-hmm,
you sometimes people would educate you just because they want to see you come out the way they want you to come out. Oh, you have to be a lawyer. I think law is a global career, is a global profession. When you are a lawyer, you wear your, all those kind of
um,
very nice things just to see that, oh, okay, this boy will eventually become a lawyer. And I'll be pleased within me that, he's a lawyer. But in truth, They are not trying to align your personality to whatever career you want to choose.
Okay, I think we sort of, I guess, talked about it. And sometimes, even, I think, even at the conference, I gave that illustration of, your parents wanting you to study law because uh, you can, in some way, be guaranteed an income. Yeah. And the person is saying, you know what, I want to sing and I want to dance. This is my thing. Yeah. So, how can we marry that, those two things? So, I think I said, you know what, just go to school, get your education, but focus also at the same time on your music or your dance, whatever it is that you feel you want to do. And if one doesn't work out, then if the singing and the dancing don't work out, then you can fall back
Yeah.
on the law.
Yeah.
You could at least be an entertainment lawyer, something that keeps you in that
In
field.
that
So
space. Yeah.
sometimes I think people are directed either because their parents feel um, you need income, you need this to survive, or um, this is some kind of good pathway for the child. So that, I guess what I'm saying is that, is there benefit to that
So
when
I would
you're kind of directed?
I would say, there are benefits to that because you can, especially if you have someone who is practicing, rather than you spending 20 years to becoming what they have achieved, they can guide you. That's if you are interested in what they're doing. But again, because many people always like to uh, indirectly, you know, educate people to do things in the manner they want it to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So they usually aren't truthful. Would I say truthful? Yeah, not very sincere. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you go against their decision, then it's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, for the sake of career guidance, it's always better to get somebody in that space, talk you
Mm-hmm.
through what to do, how to go about it. In fact, some of these people can get you your desired job because they've spent years in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For me, being a spontaneous guy, I think again, understanding yourself will kind of give you an idea of who you are and why you do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, I wanted to work in the travel industry, and like that was everything I had in my head. Work in the travel industry, get my education, and work in the airline maybe for a long time. Thankfully, I did my training, I did my internship, and then went for service. During service, my friends were studying hard for ICANN, or name all the professional courses. I wasn't moved because I knew when I come back to Lagos, I'm going to the travel industry. And thankfully, 3 weeks after service, I got a job in the travel industry. It wasn't my dream job, but I got a job. And I did that for 1 year, 9 months before I resigned. But I had, a skill, I had an education in that industry. So that gave me an edge. But on the job, I became, comfortable because I was seeking for more. I thought I deserved more money. I thought I deserved, a leadership role in whatever organization I worked at.
So was
And
that
I,
true at that time? Was that true, or it was just your feeling?
so, you know how it is when you get your first job, you have little or no experience. So you are okay with whatever you are being paid. At that time I think it was about 35K or something, and the job was on the island, so I needed to move from mainland to the island. I literally was spending everything on transportation and feeding. But that gave me, the necessary edge and skill to negotiate for a better pay.
Mhm.
But again, some people who don't have this guts to even resign stick to that kind of job for a long time. And in sticking to the job, you are going to miss other opportunities. So I have transited from travel industry to the public sector, and now I'm in the non-profit space. And I keep expanding. On Sunday, I was the master of ceremony for a 50th birthday. And why am I saying this? I have managed to spread I've managed to, so I have managed to test a lot of ideas. I've managed
Mhm.
to learn different things. And now I'm more confident about, tomorrow, like the prospect. I, I can host an event, I can get 500.
We seem to have lost Seun. We were just waiting for the internet to reconnect. So I will just recap on what we've been talking about. We met, as I said, at a self-awareness conference, and I spoke about how to find yourself. Okay, Sean is back, I think. Okay, hi. So from what you've been saying, we can see that you're a big risk taker. You're one that does not like to be conformed. I know you said initially in the conversation that you don't like structure. So you've chosen probably an unconventional path, which may not be the path for everybody, because some
Yeah.
people like structure, some people like that kind of containment, some people like predictability. So I need to go to work and I need to know that I'm going to earn a certain amount.
Certain
But for you,
amount.
you've Mhm. But you've gone the sort of bolder, sort of brassier journey, but it has worked out. It has worked out for you. So what
So
was the? Go on.
would I say it has worked out? I'm still on a learning path, but I'm more confident about the future because I have opened up more opportunities for myself. I know that I'm not confined to just a job. I now can offer many services, and I think and I can offer many services, and I see my personality in most of the things that I do now. So I think that's like the fulfilling part for me. I see my person in all that I'm doing. I can boldly say every engagement or activity I take part in has my person involved. I'm not doing anything out of pressure to please anyone. I'm not doing anything out of um, not having clarity. So if I'm out there talking mental health, I know that that's because I've advocated for mental health for a while. If I'm out there, hosting an event, I know that is me wanting to host an event, and my person is involved. So I think that's like the most fulfilling part.
Mhm, mhm. So what you're saying is when you discover yourself, when you discover your strengths, uh, you pull in on those and maximize that, so that
Exactly.
everything you do, it feels like you get a stamp of you. So there is you in when you do your master of ceremony. There's an imprint of you when you do the mental health advocacy or the advocacy for people with disability. So it what you're saying effectively, one of the benefits of finding self is that you can then begin to put your stamp on who you are, you put it on what you do. People get a feel of who you are and your contribution because part of you is really invested. You're not just working for an organization where you're, well, I guess part of the whole thing. What you're doing is that you are the whole thing. An imprint of you is sort of in everything that you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also had this conversation about a question you asked. I think you asked it. That is self discovery or self awareness. Do we get to a peak? Do we get to somewhere where you think, okay, now I know who I am? Um, what do you think about that?
Please, can you ask the question again?
Okay. Actually, I'll save that question for later. Let me ask this one first. If somebody isn't, what's the word? If they don't discover self or discover who they are, what are the downsides of that? Because from what you're saying, you've done it. You're sort of finding or found who you are. It helps you because it helps you stay focused. You enjoy what you do. You do it and you leave an imprint of who you are, in all the facets of your life. So what happens if I don't make it to this knowing at least a bit of who I am? What happens?
So clearly, one of the challenges is that you will find yourself doing many things that you don't enjoy.
Mhm.
And if you have to do it out of compulsion, then you are detached from what you're doing. So that can, easily frustrate you. That can easily lead to, stress, emotional imbalance. Um, i- if you are not making enough money again from that, then it clearly means that, you'll be an angry man or an angry woman
Mhm.
because you are doing what you don't enjoy. You are working hard. You are not making enough money.
Okay. I guess what you're talking about is that
There will
when
be
you
some sort of
find.
frustration.
Mhm. Go on. No, it's because the it was still.
There will be some sort of frustration, unhappiness, and then if it lingers, it will affect, have a negative impact on the people around you.
Mhm. Okay. So I guess effectively what you're saying is that when you discover who you are, it brings fulfillment. Yeah,
All you
you're
are going
able.
to do is, complain, spread negativity, and just lament because you'll see other people who are working in the space that they enjoy, and everything seems like it's effortless.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Then you ask yourself, for how long do I want to continue doing this? For me, I'm not financially, I wouldn't say that I've made a lot of money yet, but I'm just, hopeful for tomorrow because I know that with the works that I've done, especially for myself, then if I can, be courageous enough to say, let tomorrow come.
Okay. Mhm, mhm.
But there are many people who can't even say let tomorrow come because they still, are just managing what is coming. They are not happy with it. Every day of their lives is one complaint or the other. Again, their personality is not involved in what they do.
Okay. So what you're saying is actually when you find yourself, it leads you on a path to do what you enjoy. And that in itself brings fulfillment, whether you're making copious amounts of money or you're making money that is enough. But at least you can, at the end of the day, feel satisfied, feel that you've accomplished something. Because sometimes people ask me, like, do I enjoy what I do? And I say, actually, I'm one of the fewer people is who enjoys their work. You know, people ask me, do I enjoy my work? I said, yes, I enjoy my work, and I earn a living from it. So actually, it's there are very few people who go to sleep every night saying, actually, I enjoy my work. You know, not that we don't have stresses, not that there are some days I don't want to see another client. I'm like, I can't do this for another 5 6 hours. I can't talk. I can't encourage somebody. But at the end of the day, once I'm sat in front of the person, I'm good to go. So self-discovery also helps to bring fulfillment. It allows some measure of life. Life will always bring its own disillusionment, but at least if you're working, because it will give you a vocation as a profession. So it sort of mixes the two.
So recently, let me just add this. Recently, I was thinking, okay, my mental health advocacy, I should have, some service tied around it. I'm not a professional counselor. I'm just a concerned mental health advocate. So when I was thinking about what to do, I asked myself, I think I'm service driven. So what can I do that would, have, I'm service driven, I'm people centered, and I realized that, okay, I should go learn to become a therapeutic massage therapist. And I signed up for a course. And since I started, I've been, enjoying every bit of it because I come in contact with people, different people every day, and I get to, speak to them about issues. And then still, because many of them come around saying, I'm stressed, I'm going through a whole lot. And because they understand that this individual is in the mental health space and is also a beauty therapist, it just seems like you are everything they have been seeking. So again, in understanding yourself, you can easily, identify the kind of skill sets you want to have.
So
So I
what
think
you're saying
that
is
that is
that
helping me.
allows you to keep growing, and changing and evolving. So finding yourself will open up even greater opportunities, greater
Exactly.
exploration, greater doors. It will open up. Okay, so I think one question I think you asked me that day, if I remember correctly, is that, okay, do I just find myself now I'm done, or is it something that is continuous? Do you remember my
Yeah,
my
yeah. And I told you about what my friend said that self-discovery is a journey, or self-awareness is a journey.
It's a journey.
Even when you think that you are here. So I'll say this because when I realized that I could render, a master of, I could be an MC.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, that was everything I wanted to do in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And for many months, all I would talk about was, you need an event host, call me. You need an event host, call me. I put pictures of me hosting an event as my status on my Facebook, and it seemed like that was everything I wanted to do until I started, driving mental health education, and then I saw myself in another dimension. Yes, I am speaking, I am advocating, and I am, addressing real life issues. I was more excited about that, and in no time, it seemed like I wasn't interested in the MC job because that just looked like, a job. Oh, a job, just do this, get paid, and that's it. I wasn't connecting to people the way I should. It was just a job, obviously. And I had limited, opportunities to engage everyone because it was just a job. So when I started, my NGO and the mental health movement, I felt like, oh, interesting, this side of me exists. I was more excited, and that kept me going again. when I left that for disability inclusion, I saw another dimension of me. Because
Mhm.
while I was doing this, I was getting media chats. People wanted me to come and talk about it. People wanted to listen to me. I started learning sign language. I worked with deaf persons. I began to realize that I could do so much more than just host an event. And that also put me out there to people like, this guy is evolving. The show you met 2010 or 2012 is not the same show in 2021. In fact, people think I have it all figured out. Especially with the kind of engagement that have come my way in the last 8 weeks.
Mhm.
I've been on numerous TV stations, like back to back to back. I've done radio interviews, and it seems like, oh, Shehu is out there having a ball. But I only think that because the media houses can see clarity, they
Mhm.
can see intentions, like genuine intentions, and they know that this is a selfless drive. It's a lot easier to um, have you come back and speak. So today I was on Nigeria Info, and we talked about psychosocial disabilities and inclusion. After it was over an hour, and guess what happened?
Mhm.
We got to a point where the callers were calling in, and the host of the show says, can you come again next week? Let's have this conversation continue. Not a lot of media houses will invite you to come do a conversation twice,
Mhm.
especially if you are not making sense and if you don't have clarity around what you're doing. So for me, I see that clarity has helped me become more confident, and I'm very clear around the kind of conversations I'm driving. So
Okay.
I think it's important to know yourself. It's not easy, but if you can, I think it will distinguish you from many people.
Okay. So where can people find you as we close?
I'm on Instagram, OSEUNDOSUNMU, OSEUNDOSUNMU. I'm on Facebook as Seun Dosunmu, and on LinkedIn as Seun Dosunmu as well.
Okay. Thank you, Shehu. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your personal journey so openly. I'm sure our conversation will continue. We planned an
Certainly,
Instagram live, but we haven't gotten there. But we'll let everyone
it's a
know. So
national,
thank
it's a conversation that will lead to national transformation.
you. National transformation. Yes, indeed. All right. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you. Appreciate your voice. I appreciate all that you're doing in the mental health space, and wish you the very, very best. Thank you.
So I'll text you after this. There's an idea I'm working on, and I am a believer of timing. I believe all of this is happening because we all need
Now
to
the
work
time.
together to take these conversations. So I'll keep you up to date with the
All
idea,
right. Looking
and
forward to hearing from you.
I'm hoping that you'll be a part of it.
All right. Look forward to hearing from you. What a conversation,
All
and
right.
what a bold, what a conversation. What a bold, bold, bold man Shehu is. I hope it was useful, especially for people who are not keen on structure, who are not keen on the usual conformities and formalities, to sort of just express yourself freely. And discovering yourself is so important. Looking inwards, looking at why I do what I do, like my famous things I say, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I enjoy? Till we meet again, my name is Lydia Khalil. Thank you for watching and listening. I really appreciate the support.
LCBN television broadcasts 24/7 on UK Freeview Channel 271, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, Google TV, See Love World, LCBNTV.com, LifeComTV.com.